This is the play that I believe Mike Macdonald has described as one of the best plays that he's ever seen, or maybe he said one of the best of 2025. I would agree. There's incredible execution here from a Demarcus Lawrence standpoint, particularly so because this is a rarely used coverage variation, in my opinion. So I think you've got basically a trail Tampa 2. Tampa 2 is a zone where the corners would generally sit in the flats. I only have so much screen to deal with, but let's say they would sit in the flats. The two safeties would get deep, split the field in half, which is a little bit of a misnomer because someone, usually the Mike linebacker, would basically be responsible for the deep middle third, which mathematically doesn't work when you talk about halves. This is a variation where the two corners, who I have spot shadowed here in purple, are playing trail man. So they're running underneath of the number one receivers. Everyone else, in my opinion, is playing a Tampa 2. So I'm talking about the relationship of Woolen to this receiver and then the relationship of Job to that receiver. Those guys aren't beat here. Maybe Woolen is lagging further behind than people would want. I suspect Woolen is doing this intentionally, basically to elicit some type of throw. I think this is a trail Tampa 2. And as a result, it gives the outside linebackers a rule, in my opinion. I'm talking about these two OLBs here. So I'll try to explain this the first time through, and if it doesn't make sense, you guys feel free to let me know. Because the flat defenders, or what would be the flat defenders in a Tampa 2, Job and Woolen, because they're trailing with number one, there is no flat defender. As a result, I think this by Lawrence is not random. This is a part of the call. It's kind of like an old school 50 defense where the outside linebacker has a rule, no running back crosses your face without you knocking the crap out of him. Basically, make him pay for trying to run onto that space. That's absolutely what Demarcus Lawrence does here. He chips him. Actually, that's more violent than a chip. Tries to take his head off. And then Lawrence actually falls down back on the other side of the 50. So he's back on the negative 43 as far as his hands go. Completion to Jones out in the flats. Keep in mind, the line to gain here is the positive 30 or positive 29, in terms of if you're relating it to the Vikings offense. The positive 29 would be positives would be anything beyond the 50. Negatives would be anything prior to reaching midfield. In any case, Lawrence, after chipping, trying to destroy the running back, retraces his steps. For me, it's the rarity with which outside linebackers in the NFL are asked to do this. Bill Belichick's defenses in the Patriots' heyday, their Super Bowl runs, all of them, they were known for this, in my opinion. It was kind of hearkening back to his days as a Giants defensive coordinator under Bill Parcells in the 80s and the 90s, chipping running backs, releasing out in the backfield. This is not used as often in this day and age. Edge defenders typically want to rush the passer, and that's almost what their coaches ask them to do 100% of the time. This is a dedication to scheme that I think I maybe have seen Seattle use 3 or 4 times total in 2025, and I suspect that's what Mike Macdonald meant when he said it's one of the best plays I've ever seen. Not just because of the physicality with the running back, and not just because of the hustle to go force the fumble by Aaron Jones, but because of how rarely he asks the outside linebackers to accomplish that task. Basically, how rarely they're actually told, hey, you have a rule, no running back may cross your face. And that's because of the trail nature with the corners, which Seattle doesn't use a ton of anyway. It's a 3rd and long, 3rd and 14, so it makes sense. You have the luxury of doing that. Hopefully I explained all this in a way that does some credit or justice to what I think Demarcus Lawrence had to do on this play. It wasn't just as simple as, oh, he happens to run into Aaron Jones. To me, this is a scheme, trail Tampa 2, where it's kind of like an old school mentality. Like I said, an old school 50. Watch him veer off on his rush. But while he's doing so, he's got eyes on the quarterback to the inside. Maybe he's reading screen, and that's why he's doing this. And maybe this is random. I don't think so. The combination of the trail technique by the outside corners and this, to me, makes me suspect that this is 100% scheme, and he did it with no hesitation. Again, I could be way off on this, but the point is, in other coverages, he wouldn't do that at all. And then this part, for me, what comes into play is something that I think Macdonald said, maybe it was during training camp. It was early in the season when I heard it. It was something along the lines of, he's a great practice player, or maybe he's a great drill player, someone who doesn't take any snaps off in practice. This shows up. It shows up right here with him chipping Jones and then converging, retracing, if you will, back down the field to force the fumble. The level of execution, the level of violence that you get with this whole defense, but specifically with Demarcus Lawrence, it's something that a lot of NFL offenses, they just can't withstand. That play to me is the on-field, in-game manifestation of drills that you do. I'm sure there's various strip drills that they do in practice, probably every day. I think Mike Macdonald's statement is more so, not just about the strip, more so about what Demarcus Lawrence executed in the first 2 seconds of the play as opposed to the final 2. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Feel free to let me know what you think of it in the comment section.